Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is video 22 from the Beginner to Chess Master playlist, which is a progressive series of videos. And I'd like to share with you an important rook and pawn endgame, one that ties in very well with the previous video. In the previous video, we were working with a 7th rank pawn, and I demonstrated a very simple way to defend against the 7th rank pawn, maintaining file pressure. When the king is defending the pawn, I suggested to then start giving some checks, and sure enough, there was just not a good way forward for the stronger side. A draw was the result. Let us now consider a pawn that is on the 6th rank, everything else being equal. Stronger side's rook in front of the pawn, defending rook behind. Let us try now, as the defending side, to take a similar approach as we did when the pawn was on the 7th rank. Or in other words, let us try to maintain file pressure to the 6th rank pawn. Now, in this video, we are specifically concerned with a 6th rank rook pawn. Okay? Let's see. King f3, rook a2. King e4, rook a1. We're just going to bounce back and forth with our rook. Keep in mind that if the defending side's king tries to assist, tries to approach this pawn, that won't work. King f7, king e7, this pawn can now dart. And as soon as he hits that 7th rank, there should be 6 squares that light up in your mind. The significance of them? Well, if the defending side's king cannot get to one of them fast, and he cannot, that means the stronger side will be able to win. This was already shared in our previous video. He can try to get to g7, but he's one move too short. It's just not going to cut it. That's a skewer, and that's the ball game. Therefore, the stronger side's king must stay put. King d5, king c6, king b6. He's defending the pawn, so let's now give a check. Rook b1. King a7. Aha. The key difference between a 6th rank pawn and a pawn that is on the 7th rank. There is now a pocket for the stronger side's king. There is now not an ensuing file check. This difference matters. This means the stronger side will be able to win. Let's see how. Rook b2, rook b8. Rook a2, king b7. White is now making progress. The pawn is advancing one way or the other. The stronger side will be able to slip out. The checks will be exhausted soon enough, and the pawn will push through. The stronger side will win. What did we just observe here? We just observed that applying file pressure to the 6th rank pawn is not good enough. Now, for the longest time, it was understood that this rook and pawn endgame was a win, until Joseph Vančura came along. Joseph Vančura was a Czech study composer who passed away at a very young age. He was only 23 years old, passing away in 1921. And his contribution to this rook and pawn endgame is, to a chess player, invaluable. His contribution, his work to this rook and pawn endgame was published 3 years after he passed away. It was published in 1924. Let us see what exactly Joseph Vančura's contribution was to this endgame. What did he figure out? King f3, rook f1, king e4, rook f6. This is the Vančura defense. What Joseph Vančura figured out is that the rook is best placed by applying rank pressure to the 6th rank pawn. Now, why? What is the difference? File pressure versus rank pressure. Well, remember that pocket for the stronger side's king? That is now not a safe haven for the king. The rook is able to, in just a single move, challenge a king if he steps foot on a7. And the reason for that is because it is applying rank pressure. It is just a moment away from controlling that home square, that safe square on a7. If the rook is on a1, that is not safe ground for the stronger side's king. Let's play out some moves here to get a feel for Vančura's idea. This is a drawing method. King e5, rook b6. We want to maintain our rook on the 6th rank. We want to keep pressure along a rank. More specifically, in this position, I want you to key in on these 5 squares. Why am I not highlighting the other 2? Why am I not highlighting g6 and h6? Well, that interferes with the rook's ability to control 7th rank squares. At least 7th rank squares. If the rook is on g6, how do we ever get to the 7th rank if we need to give some checks? We can't. The king is in the way. And similarly, rook is on h6. Sure, we could get to the 7th rank, but what good is it? The king would be interfering with the rook's ability to control the 7th rank squares. Therefore, it should really be these 5 that we key in on, at least in this specific case. Rook b6 is perfect. Let's see what white can try. King d5, rook f6, king c5. We can now, there's some distance here between the king and the rook. We can now give some rank checks. This is what it's all about. It's about keeping rank pressure on the pawn or rank checks to the king, one way or the other. One of the two. We want to always be doing one of those two. Rook f5, king b6, rook f6. King a7, he's trying to hide there, but no, we got that covered. We are using Vančura's idea. We give a check. We can immediately question that little pocket. King b8, rook f8. King b7, rook f7. King c6, rook f6. You get the idea? There are still a couple nuances here, some ways that we can go wrong, so let's still take this a step further. King d5, we maintain pressure against this pawn. King e5, rook c6. Here's one way we can go wrong. If you play to f6, this king has pressure against the rook, and this allows a little deflection tactic. The rooks are traded, white goes on to win. We don't even want to put our rook in a position where the king is putting pressure on it. Even if we have defense, that defense can be rattled. Rook c6, therefore. King d5, maintaining rank pressure. We'll see some other ideas white can do soon enough with the rook giving check and some other stuff like that. But for right now, let's just run with it. King b5, let's give some more checks. Rook check, another check. Where's the king going? No progress being made because our rook is functioning along ranks. We get now right back applying rank pressure. King e4. And what more to try? Not too much more. but here is one way to go wrong. After king d4, you have to be extremely careful now. If you insert one more check, that is actually a loss. May be very tempting to give this check. However, after king to e5, we can now not safely get back to this 6th rank pressure. Rook f6, we've already seen this little tactic. We'll go on to lose. Therefore, we should immediately get right back to this 6th rank to apply pressure to the pawn. If you do go with this check and king e5 is played, let's see what would happen. Rook a4, this king can now move over and get to this pocket. There isn't a good way to stop that. What do you do here? King c6, rook a3, we've already seen that this king will be able to hide in that square. So it's important at this moment here, you immediately get to that 6th rank using Vančura's defense. King e5, what more to try? Rook a7, okay. So as a general rule, when this check is on board, we should stay clear of the promotion rank. King g6. We'll see an example of how that could get us into some trouble. Just as a general rule, stay off of that promotion rank. Rook a8. Let's get our king right back to that safe square, one of the two safe squares, king g7. It's very important we do this. If we just make a waiting move with the rook, that's not good enough. The rook, well, the pawn can push right now, and if we get behind, well, our king is not on one of those safe squares. There's a check, and that pawn is pushing through. So from this point right here, when the rook is giving a check to the king, we stay off of this 1st rank. King g6. If the rook goes back to a8, we go right back to that safe square. King g7. What more to try? King d5, rook f6. Let's say the pawn finally, something else has to try, right? You have to try something else. What to do now after the pawn has pushed? Well, this is now a 7th rank pawn, and what do we do to a 7th rank pawn? We apply file pressure. Rook a6. If we apply rank pressure, that's no good. The rook can give a check, and the pawn can promote. File pressure. Pawn on the 7th, file pressure. Pawn on the 6th, rank pressure. What more to try? King c5. We get some distance between the rook and the pawn, and we've already seen how to draw this position. Now, this contribution he made to this rook and pawn endgame, it's pretty cool to see this show up in games just a couple years ago, maybe even more current, but I'd like to share with you right now a couple top-level games where we get to see his idea used in a game. The first one I'd like to share with you is between Timur Rajabov and Hikaru Nakamura, and this was from the Gashimov Memorial, 2014 Gashimov Memorial. I'm just going to zip through the opening and middle game, of course. This is not of interest to us. I have included in the description to this video the PGN, the moves to this game if you'd like to check it out. But yeah, we're just concerned with the endgame in this one. And we're going to get to see how Nakamura, as black, puts into practice here, the Vančura defense. We are almost there, working with an a6 pawn in this case. The e and g pawns are now exchanged, and what do we have? We have the stronger side's rook in front of the pawn. We have the defending rook behind. At this moment, let's see how that changes. First, Nakamura cuts off the king. King f4. What does Nakamura do next? he gets the king to one of those safe squares, king g7. And after king e4, what to do next? Rook b5. The rook is prepared to apply rank pressure. Rook check. As a general rule, stay off of that promotion rank. This is extremely important. The move here that Nakamura played is king g6. If the king goes to the first rank, in this specific case, it is now a loss. Let's quickly see why. The rook can play to c7. The rook can get behind the pawn, but after a7, how are you stopping check and then promotion? You can't. Not a good way. And it's because the king was on that promotion rank. So, in case you're checked in this position, it's best to step up. It's best to stay off of that promotion rank to avoid scenarios like that. King d4, rook b6, king e5, rook c6, maintaining rank pressure, Vančura's idea in practice, in action. After rook to a8, we get right back to that safe square on g7, and at this point, Rajabov realized Nakamura demonstrated he knew Vančura's defense, he knew how to draw the position, and so allows the pawn to be captured and the rooks to be traded a draw on board. One last example, and this comes from a game between our current world champion, Magnus Carlsen, and Levon Aronian. This was another 2004 game from the Sinkfield Cup. Once again, just zipping through the opening and middle game. The end game is what's of interest to us here. And I have included the game notation to this one in the description as well. You may recall from the previous video in this playlist, I added some new features. I added some more elements to the position. I added some pawns, in other words, and I showed that even with some more pawns involved, we can still have a draw on board. We get to see this very thing happen in this unique endgame. Aronian, again, playing as black here. You ready? Rook b3. The start of a transfer of the rook here. The rook is transferring to a spot where he can now apply rank pressure. We're not quite working with a 6th rank pawn, but still this same idea is present in this endgame. The pawn is on a5. We can still use this same method. We can still use Vančura's idea. King c2, rook b5, king takes pawn. Carlsen is up 3 pawns here, but this is a dead draw using Vančura's defense. Rook f5, rook a8. Let's see what is tried in this endgame. Key idea: maintain rook pressure, rank pressure. Checks to the king or pressure against the pawn, one or the other. And what more to try? Let's see what Carlsen tries in this one. A little zigzagging along the 7th and 8th ranks there. Maintaining rank pressure. One pawn is scooped up, an insignificant one. Something just happened there, something very important. This pawn just advanced. It's now a 6th rank pawn and a big moment for Aronian. File pressure or rank pressure? Rank pressure it is. King g8, rook b8, king f7, rook b6. What more to do? Maintaining rank pressure is the key idea, and there is just not a good way forward. No good progress, even though white was up 3 pawns, and eventually, interestingly enough, we see something similar happen in this game, just as Timur Rajabov did against Nakamura, eventually realizing, okay, black demonstrated the drawing method here. Let's just go ahead and allow the pawn to be captured and the rooks to be traded and it to be stripped down to just king versus king. What more would there be to try here? If rook a8, we would get to one of these safe squares. If the pawn pushes, we get right behind the pawn and put file pressure on it because it's a 7th rank pawn. And we have already seen, I've already shared in the previous video, this type of an endgame. You can have this extra pawn here, but it still is not going to work. It can be a knight pawn, it can be a rook pawn, but that still is not going to be enough. This will also be a draw. We've already seen this. So it's pretty cool to see that, a guy's idea from early 1920s is, still used in the game today. Pretty cool stuff. Anyhow, that's all I have for you right now in this video. Feel free to leave any feedback in the comment section below, and I will catch you in the next one. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.